Before we dive into today's episode, I have something really exciting to share with you. I just released a brand new mini course called Fear to Freedom, Facing Panic and Avoidance with Confidence without it feeling so hard. And if you're tired of avoidance running the show, this class is for you. Imagine if your life looked like this. You wake up without that pit of dread in your stomach. You confidently go for that drive, run errands, or take a walk without the fear of panic holding you back. And you start saying yes to things again, not because you're forced to, but because you trust yourself. This class gives you a compassionate, step-by-step approach to help you build self-trust, feel safer in your body, and actually take action without it feeling so dang hard. It's available now for just $47 through July 17th. And after that, the price goes up to $97. So don't wait, head to the link in the show notes, and let's get you moving toward the freedom you deserve. Okay, let's get into the episode. I'm Shannon Jackson, your host of A Healthy Push podcast. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. Everything used to be hard for me. Even just driving 5 minutes from my house used to feel impossible. But now I absolutely live for travel and adventure, and I experience lots of peace and joy. I've not only reclaimed my life, but I've helped hundreds of others to do the same. Here, we stop managing anxiety and instead we create a healthy relationship with it. One where you say goodbye to the anxious thoughts, symptoms, panic attacks, and fears, and you actually live your life. Forget complicated strategies, quick fixes, or the same old hacks you've heard 100 times before. Each week, I'll bring you simple, actionable advice and honest conversations that lead to real, long-term healing. You aren't just an anxious person, my friend. There are reasons why you're struggling with anxiety, and these are things you can fix and heal from. And this is where that journey begins. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. Okay, let's talk about a pretty big topic, avoidance. And I was thinking, it's kind of crazy because I know I've definitely talked about avoidance in different episodes, but I've never done an entire episode on avoidance. But it definitely deserves its own episode. So I want to dive in and talk about avoidance and uncover the reasons why you might not be facing your fears. So, as you probably know, I struggled with anxiety, panic, and agoraphobia for 15 years. And avoidance is definitely a big thing that kept me struggling for so long. It's a big reason why I felt like I was constantly stuck. Like I was doing all the things, I was trying all the things, but I was definitely also avoiding. And for me, I was on that side of things where I was probably considered more high functioning. Like I wasn't really avoiding going places and doing things. There was some of that avoidance, but I was more so avoiding feeling. Like I would go to work, I'd go to the grocery store, I'd go out with friends, but I would try to do anything to not feel the symptoms, the sensations, and definitely panic. So for you, you might be somebody who is avoiding feeling. Like you're still going places, doing things, and it's incredibly freaking hard because you're really trying not to feel. For you, you might be really avoiding just all of it. Like you're not really going places, you're not really doing things, or you have a lot of restrictions and limitations because you're really trying so hard to avoid feeling. Like a lot of it comes down to avoiding feeling. So I just want to emphasize here that avoidance is totally normal. It's a normal human response. It's an understandable response. You know, when we're up against something that feels really hard, it's not exactly our inclination to be like, yeah, let me face it. Let me feel it. Let me do this. So I just want you to recognize avoidance is not a sign of weakness. It's just like a normal human freaking response. So I want to jump in and talk about why you're avoiding because you really have to have that awareness and the knowledge of why before you can take some healthy steps. So, probably the biggest reason why we avoid is because we have a really big fear of feeling intense emotions. You've probably felt anxious a lot, right? And you're scared to feel it. You don't want to feel anxiety, whether it's the symptoms, whether it's the thoughts, and especially panic. You know, the body and the brain want to protect you from overwhelming sensations. And so it kind of feels like you have your body and brain working against you because it's like, no, 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 we don't want to feel that way again, right? We don't want to panic. And so you have that layer of like your body's not really, you feel like your body and brain really aren't working with you and helping you to like face and feel because you have this really big fear of feeling. And let's be real, panic feels unbearable. So it makes sense that you want to avoid this because that avoidance feels like a relief, even if it's really temporary. So it's so easy to get stuck in this cycle when you have an intense fear of feeling to avoid because it's like, of course, we're not going to experience that. We're not going to sign ourselves up, right? We don't want to feel the sensations, the symptoms, and especially panic. So the fear of feeling, I would say, is the biggest generator of why we avoid. The next one is you probably have a really big fear of the what ifs and worst case scenarios, right? Like our brains are really creative. They make up a lot of things. And especially when you've experienced a lot of anxiety and panic, your brain kind of gets stuck in this cycle of preparing you for danger constantly, even though there's no real danger present. And so it's imagining all the worst case scenarios. And before you know it, you find yourself going along with all of them. And all of this what if thinking in worst case scenarios really fuel avoidance as a way to control uncertainty, right? Like the more we think about this, the more we think about what could happen, what might happen, the more we're going to tend to avoid because, yeah, we're not going to face all those worst case scenarios. Like we're not going there, right? So the next one kind of goes along with this one is that you probably have some really past tough experiences with anxiety, which is oftentimes why we have these loops of what if thoughts, right? Like we've had some really hard moments with anxiety and panic, and your brain reminds you of those things, right? And it kind of says, what if that happens again? What if it's worse? What if it doesn't stop? What if I could go on? And so these memories make it incredibly hard, right? Like you have the probably very vivid memories of like feeling anxious and panicking in certain places and situations. And so you really avoid a lot of places and situations, even though I always say it's not the place, it's not the situation, right? It's how you're responding to the anxiety. But of course, past experiences with anxiety, especially really tough ones, are going to cause you to want to avoid. Like, this is a survival mechanism. It's not a flaw. It's just like your nervous system is kind of cautioning you, right? And it's kind of telling you to be extra cautious. And so, the tough past experiences, the memories, it can make things incredibly hard and can cause you to avoid quite a bit. The next one is you might be waiting, right, for readiness, for motivation or confidence. This is a big reason why we avoid. We're like, I've got to wait until I feel ready. I got to wait until I feel more motivated, till I feel more confident. We're sort of waiting for perfect conditions to start. Like, I'll go if I don't feel anxious. I'll go if I got a good night's sleep last night. I'll go if I just feel good. And when we wait, right, to feel these things, we tend to avoid a lot. The next one is overwhelm and perfectionism, right? You're probably avoiding because you're trying to do a lot and maybe you're trying to do it perfectly, and this can lead to burnout and just causing you to want to give up. Like I don't want to do anymore because I'm already feeling so much anxiety and I don't want to feel more. And, this really makes facing fears feel impossible when we're already feeling like, I can't tolerate anymore. Why the heck am I going to sign myself up to feel and to face anything? So it makes sense to avoid. And that layer, if you're somebody who is a bit of a perfectionist, can add that extra layer of it being really challenging because when you're trying to do all the things and you're trying for it to look good, and maybe that look good is not feeling anxious, it creates that added layer of pressure, right? And then when things don't look good and when things don't go perfectly, you beat yourself up and you're like, heck, I'm not doing that again. Like clearly I'm doing something wrong. Sort of just leads you to want to throw in the towel. So overwhelm and perfection can definitely lead to avoidance. Another thing that is really big that I see a lot of my students and clients struggling with is exposure therapy. Like it didn't work before or it's not working now. And it kind of left you a bit traumatized and you are avoiding because you're like, I'm not doing that again. Like I felt so horrible when I was doing those exposures. I felt so much anxiety. I am not signing myself up for that again. And that makes sense, right? But I always say there is a healthy way to do exposure work and there's an unhealthy way. And when people come to me, they've been doing it in a really unhealthy, unkind way for some time and white knuckling it, like just white knuckling it through exposures without support, without safety. And this never goes well. Like you need effective tools and support and a compassionate approach. And so, if you are someone who's like, I've tried exposure therapy, it didn't work for me, I hated it, I felt like it made things worse. There's so much to that, but that's also a valid experience. Exposure work isn't helpful for everyone. And so it's okay if it hasn't worked, but it is more likely because you weren't doing it in a very kind, helpful, supportive way. But I just want to validate with this, right? If you've done exposure work, you've tried it, and you felt like it really wasn't helpful, it made things worse. That's such a common experience and can be a really big reason why you're just avoiding a lot. The next reason why you can be avoiding is because you have a lot of shame and you have a lack of self compassion. You feel a lot of shame for not being able to do things, for not being able to say yes to things, for missing out on memories and doing things that are important to you. And feeling ashamed for avoiding just fuels more avoidance. And the self judgment, right, blocks you from making progress and from healing. And so I always say self compassion and working through that shame is such a big piece of how you recover because you can't heal, right, from a place of shame and where you're just sort of beating yourself up and making yourself feel bad. The last one that I wanna mention, and there are other reasons, but I wanna make this digestible. The last reason, and it's such a big one, and I'm gonna dive further into this one here, is you might be avoiding because you have a really big lack of self-trust. And this is what I find with the majority of students and clients that I work with. They have really convinced themselves and they really believe that they can't handle discomfort. They can't handle feeling anxious. They can't handle facing things. They can't handle feeling. And so they avoid at all costs. And this is something that doesn't get talked about enough in the anxiety recovery world. We think that it's just simple. Like you just face fear, right? You go at it, you allow yourself to bring anxiety with you. It's not that simple. If you have a lack of self trust, which most people do that are struggling with panic and agoraphobia, it is going to be incredibly hard for you to do any feeling and facing because you just honestly don't have the tolerance for it. So, this is something that I want to talk a little bit more about right now, self trust, because it's such a big piece and is such a huge generator of why we avoid. So, I want to emphasize again avoiding is not just about fear. Like, you're not just avoiding because you feel afraid. Like, yes, that's a big part of it, but at the root, there's often a deep lack of self trust. And I want to talk about why, because when you understand why you have a lack of self trust and why this is important, it makes it a lot easier to take some steps that are going to help you to build self trust and build more tolerance and capacity for feeling and facing. So, the first reason why you might have a deep lack of self trust is because your brain is on this protection mode and it's stuck on high alert, and it probably has been for some time. And this is incredibly hard, right? Because it's like you are picking up on everything and anything, like every sensation, symptom, thought, anything that's going on in your body. You're sort of on that alert of like what's dangerous, what could happen, what might happen. And all of this, right, is your brain trying to keep you safe, but it also keeps you stuck. So this is something that I work with students and clients on a ton is like getting out of that protection mode because when you're in this mode, it's incredibly hard, right, to function. Okay, so the next one, and we talked about this a little bit before, is you fear the fear response itself. The panic sensations feel threatening, right? Even though they're not dangerous. And so, this fear, this really big fear that has built up, causes you to not have any self trust, right? And it causes you to want to stay right where you are. This makes sense. Another reason is avoidance creates this comfortable discomfort, right? It feels familiar and safe, even though it's holding you back. And it's not actually comfortable, right? It's actually really uncomfortable to be in this space where you're avoiding any and all things. The next is you're overthinking and catastrophizing, right? You're in that trap of what ifs, and being in this mental loop keeps anxiety going so strong. The next and a big one is you feel disconnected from your body. And this makes it really hard to tolerate sensations and symptoms and to stay in the present moment and to stay grounded and connected. When you are disconnected from your body, you don't have self trust, right? Like it is kind of non existent. And so, this is a big thing that I work with students and clients on too. The next is you're likely doing so much alone. You have a lack of consistent support and guidance, and this makes everything so overwhelming and so isolating. And it really causes you to stay stuck in this mode of like, I can't trust myself because you are trying to do it all alone and you don't have the support that you need to be able to build that self trust. Like, we need to lean on a support system in order to build self trust. That just makes sense. So, all of these reasons are why you might be lacking some self trust. But the good news is you can build self trust, right? And when you do that, you build more tolerance, more capacity for feeling and facing. So, something that I often do with my students and clients is reframing. And we do a ton of reframing in all of my courses and everything that I teach because it's so, so helpful. So, I want to do a reframe with you here now because I think a lot of times we think the solution is just about strength, right? It's just about doing it, it's just about facing fear. And I think this is a lot of the messaging that we hear in the anxiety recovery world. And it can make you feel really freaking bad about yourself. Like, I am out here doing the things, like, I am really trying. And this is not a lack of strength, right? And it's not a lack of like me just going out and doing it because I'm sure you've been in that boat where you are doing that. Like, you're out there, you're facing, you're really trying to feel, you're really trying to take anxiety with you. So I want you to hear me. Facing fear and dropping this avoidance, right? It's not about strength. It's not about just brute force or willpower. It's really about building safety, trust, and resilience with yourself and your nervous system. Like, healing happens through gentle, consistent steps that create new patterns of safety. I'm not saying that I don't give you a good kick in the butt in all the things that I do because I do that. Like, we need that. We need a healthy push, but it doesn't need to be this forceful, like, just get out there and do it. Like, what's wrong with you, right? Why haven't you tried this? It's like, come on. If it were that simple, right? If it were just about just getting out there and doing it, so many people wouldn't be struggling. Truly, truly, compassion and self trust are the foundations for lasting change. This is the difference I see in people who continue to struggle and people who make so much progress in a short amount of time because they're really working on meeting themselves where they're at. They're slowing things down. They're taking small steps. They're being compassionate and supportive of themselves. They're no longer just trying to force and white knuckle their way through things and just convincing themselves like it's a lack of their ability. It's not that at all. So, this is exactly the stuff that I'm teaching you in my new mini course. And this new mini course is Fear to Freedom, Facing Panic and Avoidance Without It Feeling So Hard. And what I'm giving you in this class is really a step by step, compassionate approach to moving from that overthinking and avoidance toward confident action, toward allowing yourself to feel and have the capacity to feel and to face without it feeling so dang hard. Like, I'm giving you the tools for facing anxiety and panic without dread and without the white knuckling, because that stuff just is not helpful. Like, I am teaching you how to support yourself, how to build that self trust, and how to create real safety. Because when you focus on these things, when you build that self trust and when you create that safety, it gets you off of that roller coaster of like, okay, I'm feeling better. Oh, I'm not feeling better. Oh, I'm feeling better. I'm not feeling better. Like, it really creates this consistent tolerance and capacity and ability. So, this class is really designed for people who have tried a lot and they need a fresh, different, kinder approach to things. And they want that kick in the butt, but they don't want it to be in all the ways that they've done it before. Like that forceful white knuckling, you just got to get out and do it and just like do things that you don't even really care about. You got to do the exposure work. Like, that is not at all what I teach. So, this class is for you if you are really avoiding feeling. Like if you're doing anything and all the things to not feel anxious, to not feel the symptoms, to not panic, if you're somebody who's avoiding like going places and doing things, this class is going to be incredibly helpful for you. Like I really break things down. It's simple, straightforward, sweet. I never create fluff in my classes. Like I want to get you the help and support you need without it taking so long and without it being so hard. So the link to this new class is in the show notes. You can check that out, sign up. Right now it's at the lowest cost it'll ever be at. And it's the lowest cost I've actually offered any of my courses at. And it is by far, I think, the most helpful course that I've ever created. So if you're somebody who's like, I'm done, I am done with avoiding, like I know it is not doing me any favors, but I just don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know what actions to take this class. Like this is going to help you and give you a whole new perspective and help you to start taking action without it being so hard. I just want you to hear me here. Like, you are not weak because you're avoiding. You are human. Avoidance is a natural response and it makes sense, but we don't want to continue to avoid, right? We know what this is costing us. We are not living the life that we want to live. And so you owe it to yourself to see how capable you are. And when you start taking healthy steps, you really start to uncover, oh my gosh, I'm far more capable than I've ever thought or given myself credit for. So remember, the change happens through patience and understanding and consistent supportive action. So if you want that supportive action, definitely check out the class, check out all the other things I have to offer. Like you should not have to do this alone. I don't want anyone having to do this alone. This is what I did, and this is why I struggled for so freaking long. Like it does not have to be so hard. All right, until next time, keep taking healthy action. I hope you loved this episode of A Healthy Push. If you have, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. This helps people to find the show and get the support they need. And if you know someone who could use a little push, be sure to share this episode with them. And for even more support, head over to ahealthypush.com for show notes and loads of tips, tools, and inspiration to help you on your recovery journey. I'll see you next week.